Hey everybody, Stephen Bogran here, Pro Physique. Today, we're going to talk about keeping it simple. Alright everybody, so how are you doing? I hope you had a great week last week. It is Monday here, and you know, I was thinking, I was kind of like, looking at acronyms, right? I was looking at IIFYM, and if it fits your macros, and I was like, well, what goes really well with that, with somebody that's just sort of getting started, or like getting started, they kind of has an idea, but is trying to make this a real lifestyle change. And I was thinking, you know, what about the K.I.S.S philosophy, right? I'm not talking about like Kiss the band, like Detroit Rock City. I'm not talking about making out with your lovely one. I'm talking about the K.I.S.S philosophy, right? Keep it simple, stupid. And now, I'm not necessarily trying to say that anybody's stupid. But I know that I have definitely made some dumb mistakes in the past and things that I could have done better, and a little bit more informed person could have helped me from preventing those. So that's what today's video is all about. I had someone tell me that it was just overwhelming. It was a little bit too much for them. And so it really got me thinking about, how do we minimize that? How do we make it easier? How do we make it to where this is something that doesn't take a lot of effort for you to do on a regular basis? And I think the beginning, obviously, is the starting point, right? Where do we start when we're moving to an if it fits your macros or a flexible dieting kind of lifestyle change? And a lot of people like to tell you, just use an equation, right? Like the Harris Benedict equation is a good example. So use an equation to sort of tell you where your metabolic rate should be at, and then go from there. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. That is one way you can do it. But in my experience, it's going to be a little bit less accurate than doing something like a 3-day food log and averaging that out. The reason being is that your metabolism is adaptive. It adjusts. It's a moving target. And the things that are going to influence that are going to be things like your dieting history, the amount of exercise you do, resistance training, cardiovascular training, lean body mass, current body fat percentage, and genetics. So those are all things that are going to play a role in where your metabolic rate's at. The Harris Benedict equation takes some of those into account, but it doesn't take everything into account, so it doesn't give you quite as full of a picture. It also doesn't take into account, you know, like, say you go hard on the weekends, but everything's in check all week. So that's another thing that you want to account for. One of the big things that I tell everybody when they're getting their diet log is, don't change what you're doing. I want you to legitimately keep your normal routine. If that means you're out having 4 or 5 drinks a night, go out and have 4 or 5 drinks a night, right? If that means that you're eating 600 calories a day during the week and 2,800 on the weekends, do that, because I want to see what the reality is of what we're working with. So you take that, and that actually gives you a much better starting point. You look at, what is the average, what do your days look like, what's the split, and then are we gaining, losing, or maintaining weight, right? So changing lifestyles is already a huge thing in and of itself. So changing how we deal with food, how we look at food, how we track our food, that's a big deal. That is a large chunk of work. And we want to make that as easy as possible, which means we want to set ourselves up for success. We don't want to make it any harder than it has to be. So a really easy way to do that is to manage your variables, right? So when you're looking at some research designs, you can see that some research has limited variables, right? So they're not looking at a ton of different things. This makes it a little bit easier to track. Now, it can also make the research a little bit less desirable to look at as used for a source if they haven't tracked all the variables that matter. However, if you're having somebody take care of you, they should be looking at all the variables that matter, and then you should only have to concern yourself with some of the bigger variables, right? So what are some of the variables that matter when it comes to if it fits your macros, flexible dieting, and getting used to the process and being successful with it? So first and foremost, food choice. Why does that matter? So there are a couple of reasons why food choice matters. So first and foremost, if you're working with me, you have a fiber goal, right? So food choice matters so that we have nutrient-dense, healthy foods, and so that we're meeting all those nutritional goals so that the body performs properly and is within that normal range of homeostasis, right? But beyond that, why does food choice matter? Flexible dieting is all about being able to eat whatever the fuck I want, right? Not quite. Remember, we have already discussed very minutely that micronutrients matter. Having nutrient-dense food matters for overall health, right? And especially for long-term health. But on top of that, making the lifestyle work, it matters for a couple of other reasons as well. So we want things to be as simple as possible, right? We want it to be easy. We want it to take the least amount of time and the least amount of effort as it can. So in doing so, we want to look at things that are easy to track. What's that mean? So when you track, you have your phone, you're putting in your food, right? So we want things that are quick and easy to track, that we're not going to have to put in a bunch of stuff all the time. It's not going to take us forever to find it. We're not going to have to do a bunch of changes and calculations on weight or so on and so forth. And so normally when I actually get somebody that's new to the process, I recommend MyFitnessPal. Reason being, it has a very large database. If you go out to eat, there's a lot of the restaurant food out there. And so it's just very user-friendly. So that's my initial recommendation. Now, as you get better and you become more advanced, I look at saying My Macros Plus is probably a better option. It allows you to have a little bit more control, and when you're more familiar with the process and it becomes less time consuming, I feel like My Macros Plus is a much more accurate way to go about counting your food. So, ease of track, right? How easy is it to track and to pay attention to what you're eating? Because we have to be accountable to what we're eating, otherwise we really don't have an idea of what's going on. The second thing, and this one's probably bigger than the ease of tracking, is how easy is it to prepare and to food prep what it is you're eating. I am all about all the special recipes and desserts and fun foods that you can make with IIFYM and the very cool things that you can do. However, these tend to be pretty time consuming. So if you are limited on time already or simply don't want to put that much time into it, it can be very important that you keep things simple. One way to do that is to take a larger block of time and to just prep more food. I am notorious for doing this, especially with chicken. I buy chicken in 40-pound cases, right? So 40 pounds boneless, skinless chicken breast for two reasons. One, it's cheaper. Two is, yeah, it might take me 2, maybe 3 hours, depending how anal I want to be about it, to prep up that 40 pounds of chicken. But when I'm done, I portion it out by about a week's worth at a time, and I freeze it up. So I have frozen cooked chicken. So when one gets low, I simply take out another one. It normally lasts me about a month. And I eat about 200 grams of protein a day. So that makes everything very easy for me, especially in terms of protein. You know, another easy go-to is to have a protein shake. Easy to weigh out, easy to track, preparation pretty easy. It's a little bit time consuming, but once it's done, it's take it out, weigh out the amount that I want, pop it in the microwave for a minute and a half, boom, food's ready. Another one that you can do with carbs is to get a big rice cooker, cook up a bunch of rice, bread, like simple things that aren't going to take a lot of time, or that you can put some time into beforehand to prepare, that then become very simple and quick and easy to implement into the diet each day. Because it's not about the 3 hours one day, right? If you take 3 hours one day a month, that is a very small amount of time. But if you're taking 20, 30, 45 minutes each day, that builds up. It becomes very, very intensive. And so if you can minimize the amount of time that you're putting out on a regular basis and still hit your goals, then that's an easy way to make things, more sustainable for you. Now, that does mean that you're going to probably have a little bit less food choice, less food options on a regular basis, and that's okay. A lot of people, they look at IIFYM and they look at it as sort of this, I can have whatever I want, whenever I want. And you can, if you have the time to invest into that and the attention to invest into that. But for a lot of people, they do not. And so if you don't, keeping it simple food choices, rice, potatoes, chicken, lunch meat, breads, simple things that aren't difficult to track or prepare or time consuming, can be a huge win in keeping you on track. And so why? Why does it matter? Of course, consistency. Consistency is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to your diet and exercise or whatever you do, being consistent in what you do. So if you're able to manage your time, to do things quickly, to do things with less stress and more ease in your lifestyle, it's going to help you consistently be on track more often. That is a huge win, right? Having a little off shot every once in a while or a speed bump is completely okay. That shit happens. It's life. We're humans. We're not perfect. And depending where you're at, it might not be the worst thing ever, right? Now, if you're 2 weeks out in prep, you definitely don't want to go off target. But if you're in a reverse and your calories are already reasonably high and you have an untracked night where you went over, 500, 1,000 calories, one, there's things we can do to manage that. Two, it might not be the biggest issue in the grand scheme of things. Here's the real reason why, and this is the caveat that ties it all together. It's a long-term success. We want this to be something that you can see yourself doing in 6 months, a year, 2 years, for the rest of your life. We want you to be healthy and at a healthy body weight the rest of your life, right? So we don't want it to be another yo-yo diet, another I lost 40 pounds and then put 40 pounds or 45 pounds or 50 pounds back on, right? We want this to be something that adds value to your life, that makes your life better. And that's why it matters. And that's why keeping it simple can be such a huge, huge thing. Because just like anything else in life, the more complex it is, the more time consuming it is, and the more effort that it takes. And so sometimes that can be worth it. But if it's on a consistent basis, we might not always have that time and effort to put into it. So if we can make it simple and we can make it easy, we make it that much more likely that you're going to adhere and that it's going to work for you. Because nothing works if it's inconsistent, right? It might work for a little while, but in the long term it doesn't. So guys, I'm going to stop my rant now on why keeping it simple matters and how it can help you. Guys, there are a million other ways to keep it simple. There are a million other ways. These are just a few ideas that have been successful in my experience and that have helped me. So guys, if you have any other questions, comment. Of course, subscribe. I need it. And I'll talk to you soon.